Welcome to Living Lit, where conversations spark inspiration to live in truth. Journey together with us to explore what it means to live a liturgical life and walk in the truth of our faith. Let's instill a culture in our hearts, homes, families, and world, living a life cooperating with and walking alongside our Lord. I'm Robyn Brueggemann. Let's be a light, share the light, shine the light, and live lit. Friends, welcome back to Living in Truth, Living Lit, the show where we talk about how you can live in truth in your domestic church, the little church you call home, and provide great resources for you to have at your fingertips to help it be easier to bring the faith into the home. So what if your child's very first book also planted seeds of a lifelong love for truth? With Summa Theologiae for babies, Prima Pars, the hope becomes a joyful reality. This delightful new release and it's from TAN, takes the teachings of St. Thomas Aquinas, the church's common doctor, and presents them in a way that even the youngest readers can enjoy. Through simple, engaging writing and charming illustrations, children can learn alongside a tiny Thomas Aquinas as he explores what sacred doctrine is, the mystery of the Holy Trinity, who angels are, and more. You know, in a world full of shifting truths, you can give your children something eternal, and that's a foundation built on the enduring teachings of the Catholic faith. So on today's show, I have Adele Gulick. She is a freelance artist who seeks to use her passion to spread love for God. She enjoys photography, illustration, creating handcrafted Catholic-inspired ceramics, and then writing children's stories. So I'm super excited to introduce you to Adele. Adele, thank you so much for being on today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Will you share about who you are?
Yeah, so I grew up in the traditional Catholic parish home in Dayton, Ohio, and I've always lived and been surrounded by the liturgy and the Catholic faith, and I think it's formed me as who I am. It's definitely made me the person I am today. And I always loved being surrounded by the liturgy and by Catholic tradition and by the saints. And so, I've taken that into my life, and I do ceramics on there, and I love to bring the saints onto mugs. So I'll carve Saint Thomas Aquinas. I've done a few others like the Blessed Virgin Mary, and I'll carve them onto mugs so that throughout the day we can always have the saints with us as we sip our tea. Wow. Or do the dishes. We're reminded of the saints. So I think in almost every aspect of the work I do, I love to bring in the saints and just as that reminder. So yeah.
I love that. I didn't realize that you kind of sculpt the saints onto the mugs, or?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Is there a website we can check that out at? Because this is something fun I'm learning about you.
There is. I'm kind of starting it as more of a portfolio of art, so you can't buy anything off of it. But it's ceramics.gulick.org.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to check that out. That sounds super fun. Yeah. Sounds so super unique. And we see a lot of painted, flat mugs, right? But I'm excited to see. It sounds like 3D-ish. Wow.
Yes, it is.
Okay, super awesome. So then you are an author and illustrator, as well as we were chatting before we started recording that you are one of 10 children. And yes, you help to homeschool some of your younger siblings, which, of course, that's dear to my heart as a homeschooling mom, that I have girls that will be a substitute teacher, but I would absolutely love if one of my older girls stepped in to be the actual primary teacher. So I'm just loving that you do that with your siblings.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun, and it's helped me grow as a person, and also just to learn more about history and to get that a little just to understand the timeline of history better, and coming back to it and teaching it. They say you always learn more when you teach, and I've definitely found that true.
Same. And so you definitely have a charism for teaching. You're teaching your younger siblings, you are schooling them. And then also, I feel like you are teaching through this new book that you have written and illustrated, right? And I love, so as a mom, I just love resources that are available to me and to our family that really help bring the faith in at a deeper level, especially if it's in an area that I'm personally not comfortable or don't have not a lot of knowledge in. I just love resources. So that's one of the reasons I love to have guests like you on, authors, illustrators, to talk about your area of, what you are writing about or illustrating, so you can help the rest of us bring it into our homes in a more comfortable way. And in this case, it's St. Thomas Aquinas and the Summa. So this is super exciting that you have broken this down to a little kid level. And I will say that as a Catholic convert, when I first became Catholic was before I had kids, and I wanted to learn what I could, but I was struggling to learn. And it wasn't until I had my own children and started like reading alongside them about the church and learning and, having different resources that helped me to learn the faith alongside them, I realized, wow, I learn really well at a kid's level. So I am super excited about this book. So Adele, will you tell us, let's start off with telling our guests or reminding them if they've not heard of St. Thomas Aquinas, or they're like, oh, which saint is that? What is he known for? So can you get us up to speed on who St. Thomas Aquinas is?
Yeah, St. Thomas Aquinas, he's also known as the angelic doctor of the church. So he was born in 1226, which is also when St. Francis died. So we kind of get like this great saint followed by another great saint for the church. So he's a Dominican, and he was most notable, or one of his most notable works is the Summa Theologica, or Summa Theologiae is the Latin. So he was like very prolific in his right. He was very smart and very intelligent, and he went through this discourses on questions that people that had raised about the faith, and the way that he would address it is that he would have their objection to the faith, and so you'd see like 4 or 5 objections, and then you'd see his response to it, and then you'd see all of his responses to the specific objection. So like reply to objection 1, reply to objection 2. So it's a very beautiful way of structuring an answer to a question, where you like give your opponent the best, like this is like the best form that like you could see their argument, and then you respond to that, rather than like brushing it aside and making them look less. Like he held it up as like, this is the best way to phrase this argument, and then he would respond to it and give the Catholic Church's teachings on it. So he is like, they almost everything in the Summa. There are specific things like are the Immaculate Conception, and I think one other thing that are not, the Church has later defined more definitively, and that Thomas Aquinas wasn't necessarily right on those, but on everything else, it's pretty much you can open the Summa and believe that that is what the Church teaches.
Yeah, and the Summa is a pretty thick book, if I remember right. Isn't it?
Yes. So yeah. So there are 3 parts, and then the last 2 parts are broken into 2 parts.
Yeah. So it's
a very thick
it's thick. It's beautiful. I know it's very deep and amazing, and really helps someone's thought process too, right? Helps to form them in their thinking, and like you were saying, in a response that they would give to a question or a topic that's being talked about or debated, right? So what I love about your book that you've come out with for babies and toddlers is that you are giving it to us in little bite-sized chunks of how we can learn a little bit more about the Summa and understand more what's going on, right? So tell us, what was your inspiration or the idea that you had in coming out with this book?
So it was actually started with a joke. I was on the phone with a friend, and we were joking about rationalizing with babies, and we're like, what better way than to like read the Summa to babies? So then I just came up with Summa Theologiae for babies, and it had a nice ring to it. So I was like, I should actually do this. So, and my first nephew is going to be born, and I think we had recently found out that my sister was expecting. And so I was like, I can get this book done hopefully before the baby is born. And so that gave me the inspiration to like start working on it. And so I ended up finishing it. And then I was like, this is kind of interesting. I sent it to like a few friends and like showed them, and they were like, yeah, that's pretty good. And so I sent it to Tan, and Tan picked it up pretty fast. So.
Oh, I love it. That is so fun.
Yep.
So that's Baby Morin, then, who this book is dedicated to. Oh, my goodness. I love that so much. So what has made you so interested in this particular topic? Like, did you grow up like wanting to read the Summa, or how did you stumble into it, or what has put this like at the front of your mind that you would think, this would be good for babies?
So no, I didn't actually grow up reading the Summa. I wanted to. I think later, like in high school, I was like, that's like, I want to read that book. I want to like go through it. And I like picked it up a few times and like read some sections of it, but I wanted to like actually read through it all the way. Just because he's a very notable saint. He has like a beautiful theology. And I think just our Catholic faith is so beautiful and so rich. It's just like amazing to read all about it. And like it's in like, the 13th century. And he's writing about things that are still true today and still like we can, think about them and talk about them and have fruitful discussion off of them. And so I just thought it was very beautiful. It's a very beautiful treasure that we have in the church. And so I wanted to read it. And this is also kind of my excuse to read it. I hadn't read it before this project. So I was starting with like reading it, digesting it, trying to then summarize it and illustrate on it. So it's been a very helpful like ability to like actually retain some of it, like the knowledge that you like read, you like something and then you forget it 5 minutes later. So this has kind of given me like the excuse. I'm like, I have to remember it and take notes and like think about it and think about like the simplest form it could be in. So it's been definitely really fun, a definitely fun project. And I think it's just a beautiful treasure in the church to be able to have and to know just even a little bit about.
I love it. So how did you decide to, how did you decide what you were going to put into the book?
Yeah. So this first part is very, it kind of goes on like the Baltimore Catechism, like the basic stuff in the Baltimore Catechism. Felt like it was very parallel to that. So a lot of it was like, oh yes, I've definitely read about this and I've studied this before. And so that was kind of what drew me, is like, okay, do I know basic faith?
Recording in progress.
Oops, sorry.
You're good.
And taking that into account as I am writing it out. And so it was pretty much just like the big highlights of the Summa. Like there's a lot in there.
There is.
But there's definitely some big themes that you could pull out. I mean, there's like the Blessed Trinity, for example. He goes into so many different discourses on it. And obviously I'm not going to be able to include them all. And so just the idea of like, what is the Trinity? And he talks about that and just like breaking it into like there are three persons in the Blessed Trinity and they're all equal, and like that kind of like basic knowledge. Like obviously he's talking about like something much deeper and like more complex, and like takes that and then like goes like way deeper into the theological understanding of it. But it's mostly just like what was like the biggest theme that really kind of like came out and popped out at me.
So what did you end up putting in the book? Can you give us a walkthrough of what made the cut into the first of your plan is to come out with more, correct?
Yes.
So how did you decide what to begin with? And what did you put in there? Like can you give us an idea of what is in that book? Because I don't have mine yet. I'm anxiously and patiently, like we were talking, it's Advent, so I'm patiently waiting for my book to arrive. But tell us what it looks like inside the book.
Yeah, so the way I did it, I mean, he was very structured in his writing, and so I'm very thankful for that. Thomas Aquinas was. So he broke it into the parts that we discussed earlier. The Prima Pars, that's the first part, and then it'll continue on there. There's like the book 2 has 2 parts, and book 3 has 2 parts. But the first part is already broken out, and then he has different sections in there already listed. I believe there's 7 main sections.
Okay.
And he has different questions within those sections. So I left those overarching sections that St. Thomas broke it down into, and I kept those. And then you'll also see like that section, like the first one is sacred doctrine, and then you'll see what questions that's referencing to. And so if you wanted to, you could go and reference the question in the real Summa of like, and you can see which questions I summarized it from. So sacred doctrine is the first, and that just covers question 1. And then it goes right into the one God, and that's question 2 to 26. So you can go through that. So I guess to your point of like how I separated out or choose things, I did make sure that all of his sections that he had written about were reflected in this book. And then you can see the question breakdown of how I divided it under there. So we talk about like the one God, the God being this ultimate and loving being, and how he is true love, and he loves you. And then we talk about the Blessed Trinity, and I actually have it here. We have like creation, and so we see like little baby Summa up there, and this is creation was questions 44 through 49. And then yes, like you said in the intro, we talk about the angels. He talks about the angels, and I thought that was really fascinating to read a little bit more about there, because we talk about angels all the time growing up. At least we did in our household. So it was fun to like see what they actually are in our faith, or how we believe them, like the spirits. And then he talks about the 6 days of creation, and then we talk about more of the government of creation, so like how God is the supreme being, and then we have like under him we have everything else, like the angels, like where they fit in the hierarchy, what their hierarchy is. And then it pretty much ends just with that, like it's like this very broad summary, and then in book 2 you'll get more into depth about the man, and like who he is, and like just the way he works. So it's more of like a broad overview of what is coming too.
Oh my goodness, I'm super excited. So the book actually is written in very simple language with very few words, really, especially compared to the Summa. So do you, but yet in this beautiful way that we can get these little bite-sized nuggets to kind of chew on, but have this planted in our mind and help us to learn more of our faith through like the way the Summa would teach us. Do you have reference, like, are there places for a parent to, if they're reading this book to their child, to know where to seek more, like how they would go deeper then, or how they would find the next step in more of an adult level, we'll say? Does that make sense?
I have not written any resources, but there's definitely other resources that I think, like the Summa of the Summa. There's a book called the Summa of the Summa, and that's really good, I think, for more of like, it has a condensed version of the Summa, so it's a little smaller. There's definitely like Dominicans who have written and talked about it, but as far as anything that I have made, no.
Okay. Not yet anyways, right? Maybe. We'll see what the Lord invites you into.
Exactly. I don't want it to become like, I've thought about like maybe like writing like, oh, this is why I put this in here. And maybe I will do that. I didn't want it to become like a teacher's manual to like a workbook or something, because I'm like, it's just a fun book.
Yeah.
You know, that, like, they can introduce like the basic elements of the faith and St. Thomas Aquinas' writings, and if you don't get everything out of it, it's okay.
Yeah,
you know, it's just a children's story.
Yeah.
So maybe I will, but I haven't been convinced yet.
Okay. So what part of the Summa has most impacted your life personally?
Yeah, so this is actually the first part of the second part, which I just pretty much finished. So it's almost ready as far as on my end. And it was that he was talking about the passions. And I thought that was super beautiful, because I feel like in our faith, in our world, there's lots of like, you either go to the extreme of ignoring your passions and like, just don't think you don't have feelings, you know, just like, or just push that feeling away. And then there's like the other side where it's like religion heavily depends on feeling, and it's all about how you feel and if you love God. And St. Thomas Aquinas hit this beautiful middle ground where he's talking about using our passions and ordering them towards God, and using like taking a higher passion or a harder passion to overcome these other like sinful passions, or these sinful, I guess when I'm using the word passion, I'm more using like the word feeling, and to like use like a greater love for God to overcome that feeling of like hate towards someone. You know, you just use that love of God or the fear of hell in order to inspire you to like to love God more and to do what is right. And I just thought that was really cool, because it's, rather than just like ignoring our passions or saying like, oh, the passions are just like wrong and not good, you're like, no, they're a beautiful thing that God gave us, and we can use them to order our will towards God. So I think that was one of the most beautiful passages that I have read, or maybe it just was that it made the most sense to me. But either way, I think it was a very beautiful a way of like understanding that, and very like relevant to the times we're in right now.
Very much so. That is absolutely beautiful and profound, that I think we can all gain wisdom from that so much. So wow, that's completely beautiful. Do you have other favorite little tidbits from the Summa, or even from St. Thomas Aquinas, whether it's a quote or just other parts of the Summa that you would love to share to help people get even a bigger picture idea of Thomas Aquinas's writings included in the Summa?
There was I guess there's one thing that kind of stands out above all of them, is that he wrote this and he didn't actually finish the whole Summa series. So like the first part, second part, third part. And it's just like, if you see the text all together, it's massive. It's so huge. They're so prolific. And in the end, he had this vision. God granted him this vision of God in heaven. And he he couldn't finish writing because he was like, this is all straw. And so I just find it amazing as I'm digging into it, as I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And then you think of St. Thomas Aquinas's words that like, this is just straw in comparison to the beauty of God and to the love of God. And so it's amazing that we can like read and like be like blown away by like the something, and then just realize like how just like small it is and compared to how beautiful God is. One second. So that's what I thought. Like, that was one of the most beautiful things to me that I found. 1 second, my brother needs something. Hey, Zach, can you go down?
No worries.
So, yeah, that was one beautiful thing that I found. And then I think there was a really funny part that I thought it was funny at the end. It didn't make the cut. In the very end of the Summa, he talks about like the relationship between food and the body, and like the question is like whether or not food becomes the body when we eat it or something. So it was just like this like funny to me. It was just like didn't seem very theological to me. I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. But then when you think of like the Blessed Sacrament and the Eucharist and how that plays into our life, and we're taking the bread of life and God into our bodies, and like whether or not, and just like thinking of it in that sense, then I was like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. But at first I was just like, that's kind of a funny part to put in there, talking about like the food.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, those are the two, I guess, ideas that came up.
Love it. So when you are writing, when you're not writing, how do you spend your time other than doing ceramics or teaching? How else do you like to live your faith, and what else are some passions that you have, or like things you're passionate about, I should say, in life?
Yeah, so I have been in our church choir for like 10 years now.
Wow.
And that is something that like has formed our family. We've always like sung music together and played music together. And one of the ways that we've done that as a family is actually in our church choir, and we sing lots of polyphony and Gregorian chant.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
We definitely try to challenge ourselves and push ourselves to like do Bird and O Magnum Mysterium, if you've heard that one, Allegri's Miserere. Like we try to like do a lot of like the cool and beautiful polyphony pieces. And so I think that's definitely formed my faith, like singing through the liturgical year and singing the propers. And then you really have to like study the propers and like understand like what's happening every Sunday and every like holy day of obligation, So I think that's definitely something we're all passionate about as a family. And I think it's just been a beautiful way to learn about your faith when you're like immersed in it and you're studying and you're learning it. And then you also get this beautiful outcome of being able to sing all this music that we have been singing as a church for centuries. Yeah. So that's definitely really beautiful. And we spend a lot of time doing that. And then we also love sailing as a family. We go to Michigan and sail on like Michigan. So that's definitely something fun that we all love to do together.
Wow.
And probably like our outdoorsy side. That's definitely like
I love it. Do you sing while you sail?
We do sometimes.
I love it.
Depends on who's on the boat. Yeah.
That's fun. I'm getting
all the time, but yeah.
So beautiful that your family has been gifted and blessed by by our
Yes.
Lord with the gift of music, and that you get to experience that as a family. Wow. I'm also getting Sound of Music vibes. Like,
We have definitely done compared to Sound of Music. Yeah.
I love it. So, do you have a favorite liturgical time of the year? Like, if you could pick your absolute favorite liturgical season, or is there a feast day that you just is so dear to your heart that you love?
So, yes, I love the season of Lent, and I know it's like very like a sad time, I guess, to love, but I think it's just so beautiful that our faith has like I feel like it's the only faith that really understands suffering, and where it doesn't ignore suffering, it embraces it, and it's glorified through Christ's passion. And so you're unifying yourself with Christ, going through, like the 40 days in the desert, and then also ultimately offering himself on the cross. And to be able to like take any of your worries aside and just carry that with Christ, know that not only is he already like helping you carry his cross, he already achieved and like died for your sins. So I think it's just like one of the most beautiful times of year that almost no other religion has anything in comparison to, where we can just give ourselves to God and spend that time to like really center ourselves and make sure our life is focused towards God, that we're increasing in virtue and we're increasing and like growing our prayer life, as well as getting rid of any of the bad that has crept into our lives. So that's one of my favorite seasons. And then my favorite feast day is Corpus Christi.
Oh.
And we have, as a parish, celebrated this in the European way, which I don't know if you've ever like seen what Europe does on Corpus Christi, but we'll deck out all the like the pathways around our church with religious like pictures. So we'll do like take colored wood chips and we'll create all of these designs, and so that then we'll do this Eucharistic procession where Christ will come and walk over all of these like beautiful designs with like wood chips. It's colored wood chips, but it's still like very beautiful. And then in the past few years, we've actually had like a second altar. So we'll walk out of the church and into the second altar, and then we'll bring the Blessed Sacrament back. So it's just my favorite time of year. I think it's so beautiful. The Blessed Sacrament is obviously at the center of our faith.
It is. Wow, what a gift that your parish and your church community, you guys really take it to the next level. That's done just a procession with the pictures, or it sounds like art on the streets. That's amazing. Yeah. So you're in Ohio. So are you comfortable sharing what parish you go to? Like, are there pictures or anything that we could see of this? It sounds amazing.
I believe there are pictures. I don't know. I mean, I know we have as a parent pictures. But yes, it's Holy Family in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay, awesome. So wow.
It's in Finland.
I'm thinking that I need to take a family vacation to Dayton, Ohio next early summer, June-ish or whenever. So I may have to talk to my family about that, because that sounds incredible. So how about, do you have I might just be reaching out to you to make that happen. I would love to meet the rest of your family too. How fun. And here, I would love to have you put on a concert for us with your music. So how about as a family? Like what feast day do you guys celebrate as a family that growing up, if you were to reflect back, you're like, wow, in the home, this particular feast day is just something in your core memory?
I think that would have to be probably St. Nicholas's Day, and maybe it's just because it's coming up, and so I know,
as we're recording,
so and it's relevant. But yeah, it was really fun, I guess, growing up, and like you start Advent, and it's like that time of preparation, and you're just beginning the preparation, and then you get St. Nicholas's Day, and we always would celebrate, like we'd wake up and we'd put our boots out the night before, and then we'd wake up, or our stockings. That's when we do stockings rather than on Christmas Day.
We do too. Same.
Yeah, we only did it on St. Nick's Day. So you'd come down in the morning as early as you could to like see what was in your stocking. And I just thought it was like so much fun. And it just like braces you for like the rest of Advent, to like for the preparation of waiting for Christmas. Yeah. So I always thought that one was really special.
Super fun. You were the first person that I have run into in all of the years of raising my family, which is almost 30 years now, where we have, for probably about 25 years now, I think we have celebrated St. Nicholas in the same way, where we do our stockings. That's all on St. Nicholas Day. Yeah. And it's worked so well for us. It's been so exciting for the kids. And it does just give you this like first fun little celebration in
Yeah.
Advent. But I've really felt that, and this is funny because we didn't even plan on talking about this today, but I feel like what it's done for our family is by celebrating St. Nicholas Day that way, well, it takes the pressure off of Santa. I feel like the
Yeah.
way we have, and it's been all just grace and the Holy Spirit and God that's lined it up this way, but it really has shifted the kids' focus to St. Nicholas instead of Santa. And then from there, it's just like it's out of the way. You know, we give all this
Yeah.
attention to St. Nicholas. And then we too do all the stockings. The stockings are out then, and that's when all the stocking stuffers are. And then that like kind of goes into the background too for the rest of Advent. And as a mom, it's helped take some of the pressure off of having all of it on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. And so I'm just super tickled that I've talked to someone else who's doing similar.
Yeah, that's
so that
really
is
cool.
wild.
Well, we have one other family, I think. Well, then maybe there's a couple, but yeah.
It really, we have enjoyed it.
Like the tradition is kind of lost, but we can bring that back.
We can, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So where do you go from here? So you've already mentioned that you have more books in the little Summa series. So what's next? Can you share with us?
Yeah, so I guess what's next is really working on the rest of these books. I finished the first part of the first part of the second part, but there's still much more to go. So it's finishing that. And then actually we brought it up with Corpus Christi being one of my favorite feast days. That is what I would like. I think I want to write a little book on that. We went to Spain as a family this year. We were like on a family pilgrimage, and we went into, I think it's Zaragoza, and they have this beautiful, like literal 10-foot monstrance where they would carry Christ in the Blessed Sacrament through the streets again over like they'll do like banners and rose petals and like all of that. And so I want to, in that feel of the Spanish city of Zaragoza, do a book about that. So we'll see. But that's kind of like been on my mind recently.
Oh, I love it. Adele, I am watching, to anybody who's watching this on video, they're going to see just the joy that is just all over your face, and your smile and just oozes out of you. And I'm sure to those who are listening and not watching, they can hear that in your voice, that you just have such a deep love for our faith in this genuine, authentic way that is just absolutely beautiful. So, oh my goodness, I'm super excited to see the way that our Lord is going to continue to use you to bring others closer to Him. Oh my goodness, what a gift. What a gift.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Do you have any parting words before we sign off for this episode? But anything that you would like to share about anything faith related or just anything, or the Summa, anything?
Well, thank you for having me on. I love what you're doing. It's so cool to like talk about, and it's so important too to talk about how like to bring Christ into the home. It's so fundamental, and I think it's my parents having done that, I think formed me. And like you read like the Saint Teresa's story and like how her parents would always do that, and I think it's just so beautiful and brings so many sweet memories. And even if I think even if your children were to fall away, just having that glimmer of like that past like love that you had and that spark for seeing your faith in a beautiful way will bring you back. So I think it's very hopeful to see other families taking that on, doing different traditions, and it's really not that hard. It can be like just a few simple things, and it definitely goes a long way and makes the faith a very beautiful experience. And it should be a very beautiful experience because we're talking about our Creator who loves us amazingly. And so I think it's a very beautiful thing what you're doing, and so thank you for letting me be a part of that.
Oh, it's been an absolute treat and joy, Adele, to have you on. So thank you so much. So thank you for all you're doing, ways the Lord is inviting you to just do so much to help others grow in their faith. So thank you, and what a light you are to the world, and to share how the faith has formed you in your family life. What a gift. So it's a beautiful thing to see you living that out now. So Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Adele. So Adele's book is available through Tan Books. And so I just invite you to check that out. And I am excited to watch for the rest of the series to come out, Adele. This is going to be so fun. And just to see the other ways the Lord will be using you with potential other titles down the road. So thanks so much, Adele. And thank you, Living Lit family, for tuning in. We do appreciate all the time that you take listening and following along. And we just hope that this will help you form your family in the little church that you call home. Thanks for joining us today. Remember to like, subscribe, and share Living Lit, and reach out with topics you'd like tackled at livinglit@sfcatholic.org. And be the light, shine the light, share the light, and live lit.